The training bay was cold. Not the kind of cold that came from broken heating systems, but the cold that alien species preferred. Kang Tae had learned to ignore it during his 3 months at the Galactic Coalition Military Academy. He had learned to ignore many things. The massive space station called Orion 7 floated at the edge of Coalition territory. It was home to thousands of alien cadets from dozens of species, and now, for the first time in galactic history, it was also home to 12 humans. Tae stood in formation with 40 other cadets. Most of them towered over him. The Vorin had 4 arms and stood nearly 8 feet tall. The Keth were covered in hard shells that could stop a blade. The scaled Dominion warriors had claws that could tear through metal. And then there was Tae, 5'10". No claws, no armor, no venom. Just a human. Senior Instructor Vorath walked slowly down the line of cadets. His scales were dark green, almost black, and his yellow eyes held nothing but contempt. He was from the Scaled Dominion, a species that had conquered 11 worlds before joining the Coalition. They believed that strength was the only measure of worth. Vorath stopped in front of Tae. "The human," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Tell me, soft one, why are you here?" Tae kept his eyes forward. "To serve the Coalition, Senior Instructor." "To serve," Vorath repeated. He let out a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species has been in space for less than 200 years. You have no natural weapons, no armor. Your bones break easily. Your skin tears like paper." He leaned closer. "You are prey animals pretending to be warriors." Tae said nothing. He had heard this before. Every human at the Academy had heard it. The galaxy had made up its mind about humanity long before they arrived. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. Humans were only good for trading and negotiating, not fighting. The Coalition had only accepted humans into the military academy as a political gesture. Nobody expected them to succeed. Nobody expected them to last. Vorath moved on, and the drill began. It was a standard formation exercise. Move as a unit. React to commands. Simple enough. But Vorath was not interested in simple. He changed the commands rapidly, trying to confuse the cadets. He wanted to see who would fail. Tae kept up. His body moved before his mind could think. Left, right, drop, rise. His muscles burned, but he did not slow down. 3 months of training had taught him that pain was just information. It could be ignored. But then Vorath changed the pattern again. Tae stepped right when he should have stepped left. It was a small mistake. Half a second of hesitation. Most instructors would have noted it and moved on. But Vorath was not most instructors. He was in front of T before anyone could react. His clawed hand came down in a vicious backhand aimed at Tae's face. It was not a correction. It was punishment. It was meant to hurt. It was meant to humiliate. What happened next would be studied. By military scholars across the galaxy for decades, Tae did not think. There was no time to think. Something deep inside him, something older than civilization, older than language, woke up. His heart rate spiked. Adrenaline flooded his bloodstream. Time seemed to slow down. His left hand came up and caught Vorath's wrist. His right hand grabbed the instructor's elbow. He twisted, using the alien's own momentum against him, and drove his palm into Vorath's throat with every ounce of force his body could generate. The sound was like a wet crack. Vorath dropped. He hit the floor hard, his claws scratching uselessly at his crushed windpipe. His yellow eyes were wide with shock and pain. He could not breathe. He could not speak. The most feared instructor at the academy lay at the feet of a human cadet, completely disabled. The entire training bay went silent. 40 cadets stared. None of them moved. None of them could process what they had just seen. A human, a soft and weak human, just defeated a scaled Dominion warrior in less than 2 seconds. Tae stood over Vorath's body. His hands were shaking. The adrenaline was still pumping through him, and his vision was sharp and clear. He could hear his own heartbeat. He could hear Vorath choking on the floor. He could hear the distant hum of the station's engines. "Medical team," someone finally said. "We need a medical team now." Spell broke. Cadets rushed to help their instructor. Someone pulled Tay away from the scene. He did not resist. His body was starting to crash from the adrenaline high, and his legs felt weak. A Voran cadet stared at him as he was led out of the training bay. The alien's 4 eyes were wide with something Tay had never seen directed at a human before. Fear within the hour. Tay was in a holding cell. Within 2 hours, the incident had been reported to Coalition Command. Within 3 hours, the video of the confrontation had leaked to the galactic networks. Billions of beings, across thousands of worlds, watched a human cadet destroy an alien warrior with his bare hands. They watched Vaurat fall. They watched Tay stand over him, breathing hard, his eyes cold and focused. The comments and reactions came flooding in. Most aliens refused to believe it was real. Some claimed it was trick photography. Others said the human must have been augmented with illegal cybernetics, but the medical scans came back clean. Tay was completely natural. No augmentations. No genetic modifications. Just a baseline human being, and that was when the questions began. How did he move so fast? How did he know exactly where to strike? How did a species with no natural weapons take down a trained warrior in 1.3 seconds? The Coalition's scientists demanded answers. The Scaled Dominion demanded blood. The other human cadets demanded to see their friend, but Tay sat alone in his cell, staring at his hands. The hands that had moved without his permission? The hands that had almost killed a senior instructor? He had always known he was capable of violence. All humans were. It was in their blood, in their bones, in every cell of their bodies. They came from a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years. They had survived ice ages and plagues and predators that no longer existed because humans had hunted them to extinction. But knowing something and feeling it were two different things. Tay closed his eyes and remembered the moment Vorath's hand had come toward his face. He remembered the instant his body had taken over. There had been no fear, no hesitation, just a cold, clear certainty that he would not be struck. He would not be prey. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity really was. And Tay had a feeling they were not going to like the answer. Yoon Hannah had been a diplomatic attach for 7 years. She had negotiated trade deals, resolved border disputes, calmed angry ambassadors from species that could have crushed her with one hand. Nothing surprised her anymore until today. She walked quickly through the corridors of Oran-Arseven, her boots clicking against the metal floor. 2 armed guards followed behind her. They were not there to protect her. They were there to make sure she did not cause any trouble. The Coalition Council was furious. A human cadet had nearly killed a Scaled Dominion instructor. The incident had become the biggest news story in the galaxy. Everyone had an opinion. Most of those opinions were not kind to humanity. Hannah reached the medical wing and stopped at the observation window. Inside, Vorath lay on a bed designed for his species. Tubes connected to his throat. Machines beeped softly. He would survive, but his vocal cords were permanently damaged. 3 of his neck vertebrae had been cracked. A doctor from the Keth species approached her. His shell was pale blue, and his voice was soft. The human did this with 1 strike, he said. No weapon. No augmentation. Just his hand. Hannah nodded. I read the report. You do not seem surprised. I am not. The doctor studied her with his compound eyes. Your species has been classified as non-threat herbivore adjacent since first contact. You have no claws. No venom. No natural armor. How is this possible? Hannah turned to face him. That classification was a mistake. Before the doctor could respond, a message came through on Hannah's communicator. The Coalition Science Division wanted to examine Cadet Kong Tay immediately. She was ordered to bring him. Tay looked tired when they brought him out of his cell. His face was calm, but Hannah could see the tension in his shoulders. He had been sitting alone for 12 hours waiting to find out if he would be punished or praised. Am I being charged? He asked. Not yet, Hannah said. The scientists want to run some tests first. They want to understand how you did what you did. Tay said nothing. He just followed her down the corridor. The science division was located in the lower levels of the station. It was a massive complex filled with equipment that Hannah could not even begin to understand. Dozens of scientists from various species waited for them. The lead researcher was a being called Dorvan. He was from a species that had no physical form, just a floating collection of lights and energy contained in a special suit. His voice came from a speaker on the suit's chest. "Cadet Kongte," Orvan said, "please step into the scanner." Tay stepped onto a platform in the center of the room. Blue lights passed over his body. The scientists watched their screens and spoke to each other in hushed voices. After several minutes, Orvan floated closer to Hannah. "This is impossible," he said. "What did you find?" "The human has no augmentations, no genetic modifications. He is completely baseline. And yet, our readings show that during the incident, his reaction time dropped to 0.08 seconds. His muscle output increased by 300%. His pain receptors were partially suppressed." Hannah nodded again. "It is called the fight-flight response." The scientist stared at her. Orvan's lights flickered, which Hannah had learned was a sign of confusion. "Explain." Hannah pulled up a file on her datapad and sent it to the main screen. Images of Earth appeared. Forests and oceans and mountains and predators. So many predators. "Humans evolved on a death world," she said. "Our planet is classified as a Category 7 on the Coalition Danger Scale. The gravity is higher than galactic average. The atmosphere contains a reactive gas called oxygen that can cause fires and explosions. And the native life forms spent millions of years trying to kill us." She showed them images of lions and wolves and crocodiles. The scientists watched in growing horror. "In response, our bodies developed a survival mechanism. When we are threatened, our brains release chemicals that temporarily enhance our physical abilities. Our hearts beat faster. Our muscles become stronger. Our minds become sharper. We call it adrenaline." Orvan's lights were flickering rapidly now. "This is a natural ability? All humans have this?" "Yes, even the children. Especially the children." The room went quiet. Tay stood on the platform watching the aliens process this information. He had grown up learning about adrenaline in school. It was basic biology. He had never thought of it as anything special. But the aliens were looking at him like he was a monster. Orvan floated over to another screen and pulled up Earth's evolutionary records. The Coalition had collected this data during first contact, but apparently no one had ever bothered to read it carefully. "Your species hunted these creatures?" Orvan asked, pointing at an image of a mammoth. "Yes, they are 10 times your size. We hunted in groups, and these." An image of wolves appeared. We domesticated those. They became our companions. You made predators your pets. Tay almost smiled. "We made every predator on our planet submit to us. The ones that did not submit went extinct." The scientists exchanged looks. Hannah could see the fear spreading through the room like a disease. For millions of years, the galaxy had assumed that dangerous species looked dangerous. They had claws and fangs and armor. Humans looked soft. Humans looked harmless. The galaxy had been fooled by appearance. Orvan accessed another file. "Your species has only been unified for 200 years. Before that, you fought constant wars against each other. Yes. You developed weapons capable of destroying your entire planet several times over, and you still fight among yourselves?" Tay hesitated. "Less than before. But yes." Orvan was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Careful. "The Coalition classified humanity as a non-threat species based on your physical appearance. This classification determines military funding, diplomatic priority, and threat assessment protocols. I am recommending that this classification be changed immediately." Hannah stepped forward. "To what?" "Apex Predator. Extreme caution advised." The words hung in the air. Tay looked at Hannah, and she looked back at him. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. The galaxy was finally seeing humanity for what it really was. Not prey, not Victims. Predators. The most successful predators their world had ever produced. They had conquered their planet, tamed their environment, and reached for the stars. And now the galaxy was realizing that the soft, friendly species they had been ignoring for 200 years was actually the most dangerous thing they had ever encountered. As Tay was led back to his quarters, he passed a group of alien cadets in the corridor. They pressed themselves against the walls to let him pass. Their eyes were wide. Their bodies were tense. They were afraid of him now. Tay kept walking. He had done nothing wrong. He had only defended himself. But the galaxy did not care about right and wrong. The galaxy only cared about power, and humanity had just shown the galaxy exactly how much power it had been hiding. The scaled Dominion Embassy was a fortress. It sat at the heart of Station Ornar 7, a massive building made of dark stone imported from their homeworld. Armed guards stood at every entrance. Flags bearing the Dominion symbol hung from the walls. Inside, Ambassador Vorak was furious. He was older than Vorath. His scales faded to a dusty gray, but his eyes burned with the same cold fire. He had served the Dominion for over a century. He had conquered worlds. He had crushed rebellions. And now, a soft pink human had humiliated his people in front of the entire galaxy. "The human must pay," he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Our honor demands it." The coalition representatives sat on the other side of the table. There were 12 of them, from 12 different species. They looked uncomfortable. They did not want war with the scaled Dominion, but they also did not want to hand over a cadet who had only defended himself. Instructor Vorath struck first, one of them said. She was from the Voran species, tall and blue-skinned. The human responded to an attack. The human nearly killed a Dominion warrior, Vorak snapped. He must face justice. Your instructor struck a cadet without cause. Under coalition law, that is assault. Vorak stood up. His claws scraped against the table, leaving deep marks in the metal. Then we demand a trial by combat. It is our right under the old treaties. The human will face our champion in the arena. If he wins, he goes free. If he loses, he belongs to us. The room went silent. Trial by combat was an ancient tradition, rarely used in modern times. But the treaties were clear. If a species invoked the right, it could not be denied. The Voran representative looked at her colleagues. They all knew what this meant. If the human refused, humanity would be labeled as cowards. They would lose all respect in the coalition. They might even be expelled. "We will inform the human of your challenge," she said finally. "The choice is his." Kong Tae received the news in his quarters. Captain Park Jae delivered it personally. Jae was the commanding officer of the human contingent at the academy, a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had been a soldier for 30 years before becoming an instructor. "You do not have to accept," Jae said. "I can find another way." Tae shook his head. "If I refuse, what happens to the others? Lee, Su, Choi, Woo. All the humans who came here to prove we belong? They would be affected. Yes, but your life is more important." "No." Tae stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched into infinity. "This is bigger than me. The galaxy is watching. They need to see what we are." Jae was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I trained you well. But the Dominion champion is not like Vorath. His name is Draxon. He has never lost a fight. He has killed opponents in the arena before. I know. He is twice your size. He has venomous spines on his tail. His scales can stop a blade. I know." Jae stepped closer. "Then tell me, cadet, how do you plan to beat him?" Tae turned to face his captain. His eyes were steady. "The same way humans have always beaten things bigger than us. I will endure. I will adapt. And I will not stop until it is over." The next 3 days were intense. Tae trained from sunrise to long past midnight. Lee Su and Choi Woo joined him, running drills and sparring sessions. They did not try to teach him alien techniques. There was no time for that. Instead, they focused on what humans did best. They studied Draxon's previous fights. They found his patterns, his habits, the small movements he made before each attack. They looked for weaknesses in his armor and openings in his defense. They trained Tay to move without thinking, to react on pure instinct. On the second night, Yunhana visited him in the training room. She stood in the doorway watching him strike a training dummy over and over. "The galaxy is talking about you," she said. Tay did not stop his training. "What are they saying?" "Some say you are brave. Others say you are foolish. The betting markets have you at 50 to 1 against." "Only 50. Hannah almost smiled. "The video of you defeating Vorath has changed some minds, but most still think Draxon will kill you." Tay finally stopped. He was breathing hard, and sweat dripped down his face. "What do you think?" Hannah walked into the room and sat on a bench. "I think you are asking the wrong question. It does not matter if you win or lose. What matters is how you fight. I do not understand. The galaxy sees us as prey. Soft creatures who got lucky with technology. If you fight and die bravely, that image changes. If you fight and win, that image shatters completely." She looked at him with serious eyes. "Either way, humanity moves forward. Either way, we prove that we are not to be ignored." Tay wiped the sweat from his face. "So I am a symbol now. You became a symbol the moment you defeated Vorath. That cannot be changed. The only question is what kind of symbol you will be." He thought about her words for a long time. He had joined the academy to serve, to learn, to represent his species among the stars. He had not planned to become a symbol of anything. You and I life rarely went according to plan. On the third night, Captain J gathered all 12 human cadets in a private room. They sat in a circle, and for a moment, no one spoke. They all knew what was coming. They all knew that one of them might not survive. Finally, J broke the silence. "Whatever happens tomorrow, remember this. We are human. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed us. We have faced extinction 100 times and refused to die. We are here because our ancestors never gave up, and we will not give up now." He looked at each of them in turn. Tay will fight tomorrow, but he fights for all of us. For everyone back on Earth, for every human who has ever been called weak or soft or worthless, win or lose, we show the galaxy who we really are. Li Su raised his hand. "Who are we?" Jay smiled grimly. "Survivors. The most stubborn, dangerous survivors the universe has ever seen." Tay looked at his friends, his comrades, his family. They were all afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They believed in him. They trusted him. He would not let them down. That night, he slept deeply for the first time in days. And when he awoke, the sun of Orin Arsavan was rising. It was time to fight. The Grand Combat Arena could hold 50,000 spectators. Today, every seat was filled. Beings from across the galaxy had traveled to Station Orinar 7 to witness the trial by combat. Billions more watched through broadcasts that reached every corner of known space. Kang Tay stood at one end of the arena. He wore simple training clothes, white pants, and a white jacket. He had no armor, no weapons, just his hands and his will. At the other end, Draxon waited. The Dominion champion was massive. He stood 8 feet tall and weighed nearly 500 pounds. His scales were blood red, thick enough to stop most blades. His tail was covered in venomous spines that could paralyze prey in seconds. His claws had torn through metal during his previous fights. He had killed 14 opponents in this arena. He had never been defeated. The crowd roared as the two fighters took their positions in the center. A holographic display showed their names and species. Under Tay's name, the odds appeared, 47 to 1, against the referee. A floating orb that broadcast the rules in 17 languages spoke. "The fight will continue until one fighter surrenders, is unable to continue, or dies. There are no other rules. Begin." Draxon attacked immediately. He moved faster than Tay had expected. One moment he was standing still, the next he was a blur of red scales and sharp claws. His tail swept low, aiming to take out Tay's legs. Tay jumped. The spines passed beneath him, close enough that he could feel the wind. He landed and rolled to the side as Draxon's fist came crashing down where he had been standing. The floor cracked under the impact. The crowd gasped. The human had dodged. He was still alive. Draxon did not pause. He launched a series of attacks, each one powerful enough to kill. Claws slashed through the air. His tail stabbed and swept. His massive body moved with surprising speed. Tay dodged. He ducked. He weaved. His eyes tracked every movement, looking for patterns, looking for openings. The training from the past 3 days guided his body. He did not think. He just moved, but he could not dodge forever. Draxon's fist connected with Tay's side. The impact was like being hit by a ground vehicle. Tay flew across the arena and hit the wall. He felt ribs crack. Pain exploded through his body. The crowd erupted in cheers. The scaled Dominion spectators stomped their feet and roared. Tay pushed himself up. Blood dripped from his mouth. His side screamed with every breath. But he stood. Draxon watched him with cold eyes. "Stay down. Pray. I will make your death quick." Tay wiped the blood from his lips. "No," he charged. The move surprised everyone, including Draxon. Humans did not charge. Prey did not attack. But Tay was not prey. He ducked under Draxon's swinging arm and drove his fist into the champion's knee. It was like punching a wall, but Tay felt something shift. Draxon stumbled. Just for a moment, just enough, Tay struck again. Elbow to the side, knee to the thigh, palm to the throat. Each blow was precise, targeting the small gaps between the scales. He could not pierce the armor, but he could shake what was beneath it. Draxon roared and grabbed Tay by the arm. He lifted the human off the ground and threw him across the arena. Tay hit the floor hard, rolling several times before stopping. 2 more ribs cracked, maybe 3. Tay could not tell any more. The pain was everywhere. But something else was there too. The adrenaline was building, flooding his system. Pushing back the pain and sharpening his senses, he stood again. The crowd was silent now. They had expected a quick execution. They had expected the human to die within the first minute. Instead, he kept getting up. He kept fighting. Draxon circled him slowly. For the first time, there was something other than contempt in his eyes. He was thinking now, calculating. "You are tougher than I expected," the champion admitted. "But toughness will not save you." He attacked again, slower this time, more careful. His tail came first, forcing Tay to jump. Then his claws followed, slashing in wide arcs. Tay dodged the first. The second caught his arm, cutting through cloth and skin. Blood flowed, but Tay did not stop. He moved inside Draxon's guard, too close for the claws to be effective. He grabbed the champion's arm and pulled, using Draxon's own weight against him. At the same time, he hooked his leg behind Draxon's knee. The champion fell. It was not a clean takedown. Draxon was too strong, too heavy. But he stumbled, and for one moment, he was off balance. Tay used that moment. He wrapped his arms around Draxon's neck from behind. His legs locked around the champion's torso, and he squeezed. It was a chokehold. A technique that humans had developed thousands of years ago, refined through centuries of warfare. It did not require strength. It required position and pressure. The blood to the brain was cut off. The air to the lungs was restricted, Draxon thrashed. He reached back, trying to grab Tay. His claws scraped across Tay's back, leaving deep wounds. His tail stabbed, but Tay was positioned where the spines could not reach. Blood poured from both fighters. The crowd was on their feet now. No one had ever seen this before. A human was choking out the Dominion's greatest warrior. Draxon's movements became weaker. His scales, so strong against blades and claws, could not protect him from this. This was not a test of armor. It was a test of will, and humans had more will than any species in the galaxy. 30 seconds passed. 40 Draxon's arms stopped reaching. His body went limp. The referee's orb floated closer, scanning both fighters. Draxon's oxygen levels critical. Consciousness failing. The champion tapped. 3 times, his claw struck the floor. The universal sign of surrender, Tay released him. Draxon collapsed face first onto the arena floor. He was alive, but defeated. The venomous champion of the Scaled Dominion had been beaten by a human. Tay tried to stand. His legs shook. His body was broken in a dozen places. Blood covered his clothes, but he forced himself upright and faced the crowd. 50,000 beings stared at him in absolute silence. Then, slowly the humans in the crowd began to clap. Li Su and Choi Wu, Captain J, Yoon Hannah, 12 humans among thousands of aliens. But the sound spread. Other species joined. The clapping became cheering. Not everyone, but enough. They had seen something today that could not be explained by size or strength or natural weapons. They had seen the will of humanity. Tay stood in the center of the arena, bleeding and broken, and raised his fist to the sky. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way. Again, the Coalition High Council chamber was the largest room on station, or in R7. It was designed to hold representatives from every species in the Coalition. Over 300 different life forms from across the galaxy. Today, every seat was filled. Captain Park J stood at the central podium. He wore his formal uniform, the dark blue of Earth's Space Command. Behind him, a massive screen showed the image of Earth, a small blue world floating in the darkness of space. The representatives watched him with a mixture of curiosity and fear. The video of Kung Tae's victory had spread to every corner of the galaxy. Billions had watched a human defeat the Dominion's champion. Billions more had watched the footage of Tae's first fight with Voreth. The galaxy could no longer pretend that humans were prey. Representatives of the Coalition, Jay began. His voice was calm and steady. I come before you today not to apologize, but to explain. A murmur passed through the chamber. The Scaled Dominion ambassador, Vorak, shifted in his seat. His claws gripped the armrests of his chair. For 200 years, humanity has been part of this coalition. We have traded with you, negotiated with you, learned from you. We accepted the role you gave us. Traders, diplomats, soft creatures with no natural weapons. Jay paused. That was a mistake. Not yours. Ours. He touched a control on the podium, and the image of Earth changed. Now it showed humans throughout history, soldiers marching across frozen fields, ships sailing stormy seas, cities rising and falling, wars being fought with swords, then guns, then weapons that could destroy continents. We did not show you who we really are because we feared your reaction. We came. Ooh, that the galaxy respected strength, and we thought that appearing weak would make us seem less threatening. We believed that if you did not fear us, you would accept us. Jay shook his head slowly. We were wrong. By hiding our nature, we invited contempt. By pretending to be prey, we made ourselves targets. He turned to face Ambassador Vorak directly. Your instructor struck one of my cadets. He expected the human to fall. He expected submission. Instead, he received the response that any predator would give when attacked. Vorak's eyes narrowed, but he did not speak. Kung Tae did not attack Vorath out of anger or pride. He defended himself through instinct. The same instinct that kept our ancestors alive when they faced creatures larger and stronger than themselves. Jay looked around the chamber. Every human has this instinct. Every man, woman, and child on Earth carries within them the legacy of millions of years of survival. We cannot turn it off. We cannot suppress it. It is what we are. Pulled up another image. This one showed Earth's military capabilities. Ships, weapons, soldiers. The numbers were modest compared to the great powers of the galaxy, but the technology was advanced. More advanced than many had expected. We came to the stars seeking partnership, not conquest. We wanted to learn, to grow, to become part of something greater than ourselves. That desire has not changed. Jay's voice hardened. But understand this. Humanity has never been prey. We were forged by ice ages, plagues, and wars against ourselves. We have faced extinction and refused to die. We do not seek conflict. But if conflict finds us, we will meet it as we always have. The chamber was silent. Representatives looked at each other, their expressions unreadable. Captain J waited. Finally, the Voran representative stood. She was the senior member of the council, old and respected. What do you want, Captain? What is humanity's demand? No demand. Only clarity. Jay clasped his hands behind his back. Reclassify humanity correctly. Treat us as what we are, not what you assumed we were. And understand that when you invite us to your academies, your fleets, your worlds, you are not inviting soft creatures who will accept abuse. You are inviting predators who have chosen peace. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We choose peace because we have seen war. We know what we are capable of. And we have no desire to prove it again unless we must. Ambassador Vorak finally spoke. His voice was rough with barely contained anger. And what of the trial? What of my champion's defeat? Draxon was not killed. He was defeated fairly, under the rules your people invoked. The trial is concluded. There is no further debt. Jay met the ambassador's gaze without flinching. Unless you wish to invoke another challenge? The offer hung in the air. Everyone knew what it meant. If the Dominion challenged again and lost again, their shame would be complete. If they won, they would earn the hatred of every human in the galaxy. Vorak said nothing. The council voted that same day. Humanity's classification was officially changed from non-threat herbivore adjacent to apex predator species. The vote was unanimous. Even the scaled Dominion representative voted in favor. His face like stone. 3 days later, Kong Tae was released from the medical ward. His wounds had been healed by coalition medicine faster than natural human recovery, but still leaving faint scars. He wore them without shame. The other human cadets greeted him outside the medical wing. Li Su clasped his hand. Choi Wu slapped his shoulder. Even Captain J, usually so formal, allowed himself a small smile. You did well, Jay said simply. Tae nodded. What happens now? Now you go back to training. You have 3 years left at the academy. Plenty of time to learn. Will things be different? Jay looked at the alien cadets passing by in the corridor. They gave the humans a wide berth now, their eyes filled with respect and wariness. Yes, things will be very different. Yunhana approached as the group began to break up. She walked beside Tae in silence for a while before speaking. You changed the galaxy, you know? The way they see us. The way they treat us. Everything is different now because of what you did. Tae considered this. I just defended myself. And in doing so, you showed them what humanity really is. Hana stopped walking and turned to face him. You showed them that we are not to be underestimated. That we are not victims. That when we are pushed, we push back harder. Tae looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked up, through the station's transparent ceiling, at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, alien intelligence agencies were updating their files. Species that had once ignored humanity were now paying close attention. Military planners were revising their strategies. Diplomats were reconsidering their approaches. Under the heading for humanity, a new designation was being added to databases across the galaxy. Classification: Apex Predator. Threat level: Extreme. Recommended. Protocol: Do not engage. A young cadet named Kim Yoon approached Tae before he returned to the training barracks. She was one of the 12 humans at the academy, barely 19 years old. What should the galaxy know about us? She asked. When they look at humans, what should they see? Tae thought about his ancestors, who had survived everything their world could throw at them. He thought about his parents, who had worked their whole lives so he could reach the stars. He thought about the billions of humans on Earth, each one carrying the same fire in their blood. We endure, he said, and we never stop fighting for our own. Kim Yoon nodded, her eyes shining. And somewhere in the depths of space, the galaxy turned its attention to a small blue world on the edge of known territory. They watched and they waited, and for the first time in a very long time, they were afraid. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.